Welcome back, Internet, to episode 48 of Country at Your Own Risk, where we will be discussing our second part of the Phantasm series with Kent, Kevin, and Chris. Kevin will be taking us away with Phantasm 3 and Phantasm 4, and I will let him get right into it.
All right, Phantasm 3, Lord of the Dead, 1994, written and directed by Don Coscarelli. The budget for this one, a little bit less, $2.5 million. It had a brief 2-week run in Baton Rouge and St. Louis. It was the highest grossing in both markets. Universal did not give it an official run due to a conflict with Coscarelli. So this is a direct-to-video installment that comes 6 years after the previous film. That starts where that one left off, which was the apparent demise of the tall man. And then a new tall man emerges from his dimension fork after, at the same time, being attacked and thrown out from the hearse carrying Mike and Liz. Still alive, Reggie watches as the car drives on and explodes. Reggie finds Liz dead, but saves Mike from the tall man by threatening to kill them all with a grenade. This is kind of the level of what these movies get to immediately. The tall man retreats with Liz's head, but promises to return when Mike is well again. So Mike is now played by a Michael Baldwin again. After spending 2 years comatose in a hospital, has a near-death experience where his brother Jody appears but is interrupted by the tall man. And awakening abruptly, he is attacked by a demonic nurse but quickly subdues her. Reggie arrives as she dies, her scalp bursting open to reveal a cranial sphere that takes off through the window after witnessing Mike awake. At Reggie's house, the tall man arrives via dimensional fork, fights off Reggie, transforms Jody into a charred sphere, and draws Mike through the gate with him. I would not be able to explain any of this without the plot section of Wikipedia for this movie. And then it kind of goes into Reggie going into some town, which is like a ghost town. It a little bit feels like the town in Friday the 13th 6, Freddy's Dead, with Roseanne and Tom Arnold. And there's the three looters who lock him in the trunk of his 1970 Barracuda, and he is rescued by a boy named Tim, who kills the looters when they break into his house. After they bury the bodies in the yard, Tim tells Reggie how the tall man took his parents and destroyed the town. In the morning, Reggie and Tim find the three graves empty and their pink hearse gone. Reggie tries to leave Tim at an orphanage, which is just basically this lady's house who just let all these kids hang out there. She is a better person than me, I would say. But the boy hides in the car trunk, and Reggie goes to the mausoleum. And confronted by a sphere, he is subdued by two young women, Tanisha and Rocky. Before he can destroy it, Reggie tries to warn them, but Tanisha is killed by the sphere, which is one of my favorite sphere killings in all of the series. Tim appears and destroys it with his pistol. The three joint forces come upon a convoy of hearses driven by the Gravers and decide to follow them. Basically, this movie kind of like goes on in the same vein as the other ones, or maybe a little bit like 2, where Reggie tries to is a little bit of a creep, or you start to think that he might be a creep, or it's gonna get creepy. But the best scene in this movie, I think, for a non-kill is where Reggie convinces the kid to sleep in the car and then he ends up getting handcuffed by Rocky in the bed, but not in the way that he was imagining it. Um, I do like that we get to see the double barreled shotgun used in the very beginning, where he shoots up into the tree and then all the things come down. It was a promising start to this movie. Uh, so the I'm just gonna get into these stats or the list here. Best kill, where zombie Edna, who is the blonde woman in the beginning, uh, actually gets the double barreled shotgun to the face and then run over by the pink hearse, even though that she uh, actually doesn't die because she's still zombie and comes back later on and gets killed again. The best acting for this, I'm going to say, is Reggie Bannister. The best line is, "I hope that ball has a better sense of direction than mine do," and which is from Reggie, played by Reggie Bannister, of course. And best weapon, the razor blade frisbee. Uh, and for opening or closing of this film, I'd say the opening was better than the closing, though the scene where I don't remember the names of the three guys, but the guy who seemed like he was obviously dating Edna, the blonde girl who duped Reggie in the beginning.
Rufus and Henry. Henry was the oldest.
Wait, Rufus is the guy who gets he's the younger one?
He's the one that looks like a freaking early 2000s rapper with his dollar bill fucking chain. He was awesome.
From dollar bill chain from the dollar store. Yeah, where he gets the sphere in the face, and then it like spins his head off. That guy, right? Yes,
yes, and
that was awesome. That's probably my favorite actual kill scene, where you don't come back from the sphere to the face and your head getting ripped off. And I thought it was well done. I mean, still for the time of '94, this is like early CGI and special effects mixed with practical effects. I just love that time of filmmaking, the early to mid '90s. Yeah, so as a letter grade, I'm gonna give it another A because it was a lot of fun. And something I didn't say about the second one was it started to implement body horror into it, and I didn't realize how much body horror was in these movies later on, and how much of a key element, because the first one didn't really have a lot. There was some, but it wasn't, mostly it was just the blood spraying out of the sphere, and then the honey mustard and the, getting cut up from the fingers. But and the missed opportunity. So it does have it. It is a little. It's goofy. I guess they all are kind of a little bit, but the plunger scene where the orb gets on the plunger, it just seemed so like, I don't know.
Well, the fans got pissed off, and that's why Part 4 didn't have the comedy element, which I, you know, I noted this in what I wrote, but like, sometimes fans just ruin shit. Like, they will bitch about anything without, like, I don't know, is there anything wrong with, like, a couple of silly things? Like, I thought the plunger thing was funny. I thought, like, Reggie giving Tim the hand signs, like, so he could sleep with Rocky in the hotel room. Like, I don't know. That didn't bother me. It wasn't, like, a ton of comedy. Was it over comedy to you?
No, it wasn't.
This one.
Go ahead.
Yeah, good.
Oh, well,
No, go ahead, Kevin.
Okay,
Please.
with the plungers thing, it was cool for like a second, but then it went on a little bit too long. And I think the missed opportunity for this, I think, was we should have actually saw the plunger. Like, if you're gonna go there, then go there all the way, and like, let's watch the plunger with all the sauce coming out of it in the orb or the sphere, rip somebody's face off. But I think we were running out of people to kill in the end of the movie. But yeah, it wasn't too bad. It was fun. It definitely has that B quality to it, and that's probably why I gave it an A. But it did take you out of the moment a little bit. Like if there wasn't anything like that in the second one where like you're at the end of the movie and you know obviously in the beginning with the car scene where that comedy was great, but I don't know, it felt.
The fly scene. The fly scene was really ridiculous and over the top.
Yeah, that was just more like, I would say, budget and acting than like it was unintentionally funny rather than intentionally trying to be a comedic.
Oh
scene,
yeah, I can feel that.
The fly scene. Kat?
I get it, but I mean, you can't watch it and not think this is some stupid, ridiculous shit and kind of laugh at it. So I guess in the same way, I'm just like, the fact that, from what I've read, is that the fan outrage, much like, the fan outrage for something like Diablo 3, where they didn't want a brightly colored fucking level and we get the fucking unicorn level, shit like that. I'm just saying, like, sometimes fans just need to, like, chill the fuck out and instead of, like, I don't know. Fans are too demanding sometimes. And in a series like this,
yeah, it's really, fans are, like, super toxic. And, I mean, like, Star Wars fans are, like, some of the worst.
I think they are. I think Star Wars fans probably are the worst. I'm not sure, but yeah.
I mean, the other thing, too, you got to think about for something like that is, at this point, before the fourth one's come out, you've had only 3 movies in 15 years. Like, who the hell are the fans? It's not like
True.
Saw, where you had a new movie every single Halloween, or Nightmare on Elm Street, where it was, 6 movies in 9 years?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It was like, shit, people who were teenagers when the first one came out are in their 30s now.
Yeah, so it was really like the video brats of the 90s.
But, I mean, to go along with what you guys were both saying, I don't think that the humor was over the top in this one.
It's part of the vibe.
No, I mean, and definitely quality-wise, it was not on par, but this one, to me, felt like very similar to Nightmare on Elm Street 3. Like that was where you could see like Evil Dead tones in the second one. Like the vibe I got from this one was like they watched Dream Warriors and were like, yeah, let's try to throw a little bit more of that into this one. I mean, obviously it wasn't like a 1-for-1 thing, but I don't know if you guys felt that at all.
Well, the tall man progressively gets more and more lines until, arguably the fifth one. So I mean, in that regard, they definitely gave him more to work with, much like they did with Freddy, no doubt. And
not only that,
sometimes
but
the tone has to shift a little.
Not only that, but like even Liz in the second one, she wasn't so much a part of the group as just like somebody who needed to be saved. But now you have like Tim and Rocky joining into the crew.
Yeah.
What happens to Rocky at the end?
I agree with Kevin. My favorite. Oh, she leaves. She dips out.
Oh yeah.
Fuck this. I'm not. Yeah, she's the smartest person in the whole fucking series. But I agree with Kevin that my favorite comedy scene in this one was when Reggie thinks he's finally gonna get laid, and then she handcuffs him to the bed and goes to sleep.
You think it's gonna go one way, and then he like has sex with her, but it's like in his dream, and then like, the whole Jody thing. I remember watching that as a kid too. Yeah. And just being like, what is this? Because you think you're watching this like sex scene, and I mean, this is 94, so I'm like 13, 14 years old probably when I saw this, and then it goes where Jody's there, and then it goes to then he like goes out, he's out in the desert all of a sudden, and I was just like, wait, what's going on here? But yeah, I was in like a full in following of the series. at that point. I did see them. 2 and 3, I remember. I saw 1 like 5 or 6 years ago, I think, for the first time. And yeah, that's where I'm at. But so what do you? So yeah, I'll leave it open to you guys. The rest of 3.
Why don't you go ahead, Kent? Go ahead. Give us your thoughts.
All right. I'll hit you up with some stuff. So, the opening, I love that Liv gets fucking burned and dies. Mike just gets up and has, like, a scratch or something. Like, nothing. They were both in the exact same vehicle when it went up, but one suffered a horrible death. Mike suffered a horrible scratch. So that is good storytelling. A way to get rid of Liz right from the get go. Good. Once again, as we talked about earlier, we have a fully functioning hospital again. In these weary times, I don't know. I find it strange. I found it interesting that Sentinels have brains, or the Cuisinarts, whatever we want to call them. A thing that I noticed that probably you guys wouldn't have, because I watch everything with closed captioning, is that the closed captioning was about 1.5 to 2 seconds off in the beginning half, and by the last half of the movie, especially towards the end, it was almost off by like 3 to 4 seconds. It was terrible, and I mean, they're never going to fix that, but geez, it was really, really, really bad.
I noticed that for 3, 4, and 5. I was watching them with the captioning on, and yeah, all of them were bad.
Yeah. The nurse that had the headphones early on, that is Mike's real life wife. Thought that was cool. So then we have the scene where Mike is like looking horrible. He's told like, go towards the light. Reggie shows up and then they leave. Now Mike looked like shit while in the hospital bed. Presumably minutes later, he's walking away from the building and he looks 100% fine. And I was like, Mike cannot be hurt, apparently, early on in this movie. He just can't be touched. And I don't know. Logic. I know we're talking about a movie with telekinesis and telekinetics and fucking flying spheres and different dimensions, but sometimes I have to call out a dude should be scratched or cut or something. I thought Edna, the female looter, looked like what Peg Bundy would have looked like in her 20s with blonde hair. Because she had kind of like those tight spandex, like exercise pants going on, and like the really long, like the big circles and stuff on it. Just reminded me of full out Peg Bundy. We had a pink hearse. I don't know if I've ever seen a pink hearse in a movie prior to this.
Yeah. Ditto.
I don't know if I've ever seen one since then either.
Yeah. Here's a question: How does Reggie's house exist? It got exploded in the second part, did it not?
Yeah.
Why does Reggie have a house now? Like, why? What happened? Did he go and buy a house? Did he have a realtor?
Well, it wasn't the same house, because like Reggie had like a just shy of being a mansion in the second one, and this one looks almost like a shack.
A lot's happened.
I'm glad you said
in the 2 years he was in a coma.
Did you guys ever pick up, like, the architecture
I bet he sold
of the houses? Did you guys notice that? Like, the architecture is all similar in parts 1 through 4?
Yes.
And then part 5, it's more modern?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things I picked up, like, especially like the second story with the curves and everything. I think my favorite line was when they're at Reggie's and Jody shows up. Reggie just plain as day goes, "Jody, what the hell are you doing here? You're dead." I don't know how many people could have delivered that and have it be funny.
Most of his
Reggie
lines
did,
are like that.
He
actually,
amused me. I
like the fact that Jody's just like, oh, so what else is new?
right. Reggie, I'm enjoying that Reggie's in flannel a lot, although he changes his undershirt between movies. He's always rocking flannel. Reggie's pajama pants. I don't know if you guys noticed this in the getting handcuff scene. He had some race car PJs going. So, very, very fashionable of Reggie. I really appreciated that. I think this was the third movie where we had a person diving out of a window of a moving vehicle. So that's fun. I have to ask why every last motherfucker that ever uses nunchucks in a movie has to do the same fucking swing their nunchucks for 7 seconds to look like a badass before they ever do anything. Like, have you ever seen a movie where somebody had nunchucks where they didn't do that?
It would have to have been something like John Wick or something. I'm trying to.
Phantasm Ravager.
No, most of the time they're always. Yeah. But I love too the fact that like she hits it with a fucking the first time she hits it, like immediately with the nunchucks just break.
Yep. I thought it was a missed opportunity. So like towards the end, like they split up into pairs, and Mike goes with Reggie and Rocky goes with Tim. And I'm like, no, you guys should have had Mike go with Tim because both of them were rocking the denim. I thought that was going to be the passing of the denim torch, and they didn't have that moment. And then we had the Tim ending, and I know I'm jumping ahead, but we didn't. I don't know. Like you guys noticed in the beginning of part 4 that they cut out some of the ending, right?
Well, yeah.
Like Tim's not shown in part 4.
Yes.
Like that. Part.
But he's like up against with the balls and stuff up against the wall.
Like,
yeah.
I thought that was just weird. Like, why they? I mean, what the hell was Tim doing? Like, he didn't turn out to be a big star. He couldn't have been that demanding. Like, you couldn't bring him back and burn him to a crisp in the opening scene. Work for Liv.
From what I understood, I read. I was looking that up actually. I read an interview, and one of the producers was like, he's like, you know, we knew he was dead. Reggie knew he was dead. You know, and considering that, and now it's a couple of years between three and 4. You know, we wanted to just show the after effects of Reggie having to deal with it instead of actually bringing him back and kind of showing, you know, a child's dead, burned body like they did with Liz in part 2 to part 3.
Seems awfully convenient.
Because he goes through the mirror like Mike does in the first one.
Yeah.
Right? Or the window. Is maybe not a mirror, but like a window in the basement or whatever, wherever they're at.
Yeah. It was just they kind of kept up that ending, and then that ending died with part 3. And the only thing I'll say about part 3 is they stopped using the great music score that they'd been using in part 1 and 2. They went really, really light on the good music and just kind of went with very generic music in this one, in my opinion. I didn't care much for the music.
Yeah, I don't really remember the music so much in the third one. So
it's not memorable. I think that's the problem.
Yeah, the music is pretty memorable in the first, especially the first one.
I'd say the first and
the second
fifth
one's
one.
got
The fifth one, because they kind of changed it from like what it was to like an orchestral sound. I liked it.
Mm-hmm. No, the sound on the fifth one was good on the Blu-ray that you got me, Kent. Thank you again, because it all looked good, and they had 3 different audio things, and one was the first one was the regular Dolby. The second one was stereo, and the stereo one you could really hear the music and the sound like it was pretty decent for, you know. We'll get to that in a little bit, but yeah, I hear you on the fifth one.
Yeah, well, I mean, depending on your TV and or sound system, like sometimes stereo just sounds better than the more high end stuff because you don't have the stuff to take advantage of the high end stuff.
I think that's exactly my case because I don't have a.
Yeah, I used to have a 7.1 setup, and everything used to sound amazing, and now I just have a single sound bar, which still sounds okay, but I do miss 7 speakers surrounding me.
Yeah, I bet it's hard to come back from that.
It is, but dude, it saves so much space because I couldn't mount anything to walls, so trying to find a place for 7 speakers that weren't just on the floor, that becomes troubling at times.
Yeah, that's awful.
So,
I don't have the space for that either.
And they weren't like the tiny satellite speakers. They were like full on, at least like almost like a foot tall, foot and a quarter tall by like 8 inches. So they were pretty big bookshelf speakers. All of them were.
Well, that's what I was imagining. Where you'd put all your drinks on it.
Yeah. There were some marks left, some rings from drinks, and also some wax from a tart warmer on my subwoofer. And that was not my fault, but I do remember it. Anyway, Chris, what do you got?
I really feel like the Phantasm series, after having watched all 5 within the last 4 days, is parts 1 to 3, and then 4 and 5 are like, I don't know what they are, but they're not part of the series. I wish it could have ended at this one. I like this one. I mean, it's again kind of like the last one that adds new mythology stuff. Now I think we got one maybe like zombie like person in the first 2, but now we get the zombies with the 3 weird pink hearse driving people being brought back, Edna, Rufus, and Henry. It's fun. You know, I like Rocky and Tim as 2 of the best new characters in the series, and neither one of them make it any further. So, you know, I don't know about that. I like that we've really at this point cemented who Reggie is. Mike still feels, like you said, like he's indestructible in one scene and then just completely overpowered by nothing in the next scene. Jody being brought back as a sphere was a weird change. And I like how after it gets scorched but still around, they just play with it. Like Tim is playing with it in one scene. Like Kevin said, the scene with the fucking orphanage, quote unquote. You know, literally the woman's like, yeah, these kids they're all from their dead parents from the town like up the road. Reggie's like, oh, here, take this one too. So yes, that's a question.
And he gave her a ton of money.
Yeah, where does Reggie keep getting all of his money? Yeah, what kind of was he an ice cream distributor for like the cartels?
Well, you figure it. Here's the funny thing: like they took all the stuff from the hardware store, and he still had money instead of taking money. Which I mean, I can't imagine anybody's opening shop anymore. He's still like, how's he attaining money without stealing it and still like leaving it as stores for random goods?
Well, that's I think to show his character. I thought about this hard. I'm
glad somebody did.
Because in Commando, he just like goes into the military whatever store and just steals all the stuff. Because I don't even think that dude had any money at all. You know, Arnold Schwarzenegger in Commando. But and also to be fair, I didn't think Reggie would have any money either from like, you know, working as an ice cream man, but who's just hanging out, like trying to kill the Lord of the Dead. He could have
got great insurance from his house exploding.
Oh, that is true. That is true. And like, you know, he was married, right? So he's probably got like family insurance. But I think the reason why they did it was to show that he's not just like, you know, he is a good dude. So he's like taking this stuff, but he's paying for it. You know, because he's got business. So.
I mean, how would anybody know that his house exploded? Because everybody in the town was dead. So, like, nobody would know to go there to check on the house.
Was that one of the dead towns or the not dead towns?
By the time they left, it was one of, yeah. One of the other things I want to point out, too, is I love how we're following him to the southeast. And you watch them going through the map in this one. And then they're still going southeast in part 4, but somehow they're now going into Death Valley, which is between Arizona and California. So that's like the Southwest to me. I don't know what.
Well, they were in Oregon.
Yes.
And what was it, part 2? So they would have had to head southeast, then southwest?
It would have had to head like south and then southwest after. I don't know how. Obviously, the tall man can confuse geography and direction.
It's not where you are; it's when you are.
Exactly.
Don't forget this.
Yeah. And we're not like totally clear on what's reality, and they kind of do that. Yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah, we'll get to that.
But overall, I like this one. It's a fun time. You know, like if on my scale, Phantasm would be an A. Phantasm 2 would probably be like a B, somewhere between like a B and a B plus. This would be a solid B.
Interestingly enough, the first three movies has 6.6, 6.4, and 6.0 on IMDb, and you gotta realize, like, that's pretty damn high for a horror movie of this era.
Yeah.
You know, to get this deep in a franchise, that's impressive.
I still think it's low for it being a direct-to-video, because for direct-to-video, it is, like, I would say like a 7, which is really good for these kinds of movies.
This is one of the best direct-to-videos I've ever seen, I want to say.
I think it's number 19 of all time. Like, top of the charts.
That seems incredibly low.
Of all time? Yeah, I mean, wasn't Jurassic Park 3 direct-to-video?
No, I saw that in the theater.
Oh, was it? Oh. Yeah, but for all time, there's some great ones. I hear you, but this is.
If you find that list, Kevin, can you send it to me? I'd like to actually see it.
Yeah,
actually, I might just look it up. But anyways, I'll stop talking.
Okay. Sorry. So we all good on Phantasm 3, Lord of the Dead? Because where that one ends, Phantasm 4, Oblivion begins. And
can you point out how creative they were with the IV being in Oblivion?
Oh, okay. So I thought, I noticed that as I was writing it down, I was like, oh shit, it's right here. Because I was like, why doesn't it say Phantasm 4 Oblivion? It just says Phantasm Oblivion on the case. And I looked it up all over the place, and not until the opening credits do you see the 4, and then it spells out Oblivion, like the Roman numeral 4 in that. So it was not, I scribbled it off, missed opportunity, but that's how I wrote it in my notes. Like, Roman numeral IV, Oblivion. Yeah, so
Just
cool.
Wait till you get to Ravager.
Yeah. So do you think it just worked out that way? Do you think they were like, all right,
Hell
Phantasm
no.
4, we got this. What are do you think, like, what are the words we can use? Like,
yes. I'm convinced because I'm guessing you read up at least some of it. Like, there was 4 different movies basically, like, planned out at some point for this one, like, a Phantasm ends, and, I mean, there was all kinds of stories going around and ideas, and then they just end up doing this because I believe I read something where Don Coscarelli, he just wanted to make some money for another film, I want to say, so all the bigger budget ones just kind of got tossed out. There was one that even had Bruce Campbell attached to it.
Was that the Roger Avery one? That because there was
I think
there was I'll just put this out there. You can look it up. I didn't finish the video, but there was a video about the sequel, which was in between 3 and 4, and Roger Avery, who directed Killing Zoe and Rules of Attraction, the Bret Easton Ellis movie, also won an Oscar for writing Pulp Fiction with Quentin Tarantino. After that, wanted to do a Phantasm movie, and Don Coscarelli wasn't really super hyped on it because the last one didn't make a lot of money, and like, why do you keep doing a series that no one's going to care about? And I don't remember what happened with that, but I do like Roger Avery, and it would have been cool to see him do a full-on horror film, because I don't think I've seen that.
I think it'd be interesting, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think this movie's great. 1998, it's a late 90s straight-to-video entry. This one they knew, as the third one, it was made with the hopes that it was going to be a theatrical. This, they knew going in. And it's got plenty of guts and goo and honey mustard in true Phantasm fashion. With also the extra footage, the cutting room floor, and even though you can tell why it was cutting room floor scenes, I think especially the stuff with Mike, where it wasn't as strong as his performance in the first one. So the other takes with the Phantasm in the tree. Was it a tree that he was in? Or the tall man in the tree? And then he like
Where
I don't
he was
remember.
where he
getting like,
hangs himself or something?
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
he's chasing Mike, and Jody somehow manages to throw a lasso around his neck from the Cuda, and then take off driving and hang him over a tree with it.
Yes. Yes, yes,
I
yes.
was very impressed by his wrangling skills. One of the things we never brought up either is I was really impressed by their shooting skills in the first movie, considering that, like Jody's giving him like fucking real like shooting lessons. If you're gonna point a gun at somebody, always intend to kill them. But yes, yeah, that was the lynching scene, I guess you could call it.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was, yeah. So this has got, that's kind of like what makes this, and it's cool to see it like in the context of a movie that's being like a B movie shot in the late 90s, and then the, 35 millimeter Technicolor processed um, original footage. So it was. I like this movie a lot. I think it's great. It's fun. It is definitely got the B movie vibe to it. The best scene is the orb lobotomy flashback dream sequence with on Mike from the tall man, and like not even like the first one, and then also the black and white one, which is more of like the dream sequence, was very cool. um I'm gonna skip most of this story because it kind of all like goes all over the place. It is such, I'm just repeating myself, but it is such a B movie. And it's great. It's considerably less. This one was for $650,000. So that's like, is that like four times? Would that make about that much for $2-3 million? So four times less the money. The best kill, it's everything to do with that cop car. It's so awesome. From the opening of the trunk to the shotgun through the roof, the goo down the throat, the nightstick in the chest, and to the flare in the gas can, which leads to the best line, also by Reggie Bannister. Wow, some cops can be real assholes. That scene is so amazing, and why I love this movie. And it kind of keeps up with that energy. It has to like slow down and get into like the confusing storylines of the lobotomy and like Mike having the sphere in his skull. Uh, Best acting, I'm going to give it to Angus Scrimm because of the footage as the tall man and the footage in the old and the new. And there is just a tightness to that character. And, for it being, so this is 98. So this is like is this almost 40 years from no, 20 years, almost 20 years from the first one. So,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it looks different in the footage, but like what he was doing is pretty, it's pretty solid. It sticks to, and then it's still, you know, as he does get more lines later on and his acting seems better. He's really great in this one. And I would say the missed opportunity for this is the drills coming out of the orb boobs to look like nipples for Jennifer play. The hitchhiker.
No, you're
The
absolutely
hitchhiker
right.
in this
They
movie,
missed the
which
opportunity.
I guess my critique of the plunger is on this one. It's like, yeah, just lean into it. You're gonna go for it. Just go for it. Go all the way for me. Which was an awesome scene, and it looked cool, and I liked that body horror. I feel like he saw a couple, one too many, David Cronenberg films from 3 and 4, and was like, this is the way. Like add a little bit of flavor to all these other things coming out that came out and kind of defined horror, especially the video store days of horror in the 90s for me. So yeah, It was so good. But yeah, these movies, as they get weirder and go deeper into the Phantasm story, but they all follow the same formula. And also that scene where they expose the boobs, it actually seems like it's going to be the creepiest scene. But we know the Phantasm movies. Something's going on underneath that shirt, and he needs to find out. He's not just being a pervert. But his character, it has that feeling, but not super creepy, dated type feeling. I don't know if you guys agree with that.
No, it felt pretty creepy to me. I mean, something was obviously going on with her, and I got the impression, instead of being like, let me see if she's okay, he's more like, oh, I can fucking copy.
No, I didn't get that feel. I felt like when he opened up her shirt, he was like, there's something going on in here. Like, I'm just being...
I had the feeling that Reggie, if the nipple drills had come out, Reggie would have been like...
He would have been pinching those nips. Yeah. But he had a lot of trepidation here, I felt. Like, he had a little bit of restraint compared to Reggie of old.
Rocky taught him a thing or two.
He's like, make sure you keep a handcuff key inside of the bag.
And I'm gonna say the opening or closing, the closing is I think stronger than the beginning of this movie.
They're both kind of weak. This is probably the weakest opening, and I don't know about ending. No, it's not the weakest ending. We haven't got to that yet. But I don't know. The ending didn't have the mirror grab. That disappointed me, I think, more than anything.
It didn't, but it almost had Reggie look like he died again, beat to living shit.
Well, like they just like drove into like darkness, right? Like that's kind of how it looked.
Yeah, but doesn't he? But before then,
I thought the ending for this one, if I remember correctly, Reggie just jumps through the portal after the tall man, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
We get the flashback of young Mike and Reggie telling them that Jody is still alive. Reggie picks Mike up in the ice cream truck, and Reg hears Mike telepathically saying that he's dying, and he's like, "Did you hear that?" And Mike goes, "No, it's just the wind." And then they drive off.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Right after Reggie runs through the portal by himself after the tall man who pulled the golden orb out of Mike's
head. That was awesome. That was awesome, though. Like... That is why I think that is actually the reason why I was like, why did I pick that? Because we actually see the orb. We get a little piece of it at the end of 3. We see that it's there, but we get so much of it when he rips it out of his head, and then it's like, that didn't even really fuck him up that bad. Like, ripping the orb out.
Yes.
The movie's great. In all its flaws.
I'll give him this. Michael Baldwin did a way better job in this one than he did in 3.
Yeah. Well, it was only 4 years compared to... Absolutely. They totally skipping him. Yeah.
15.
And I don't know. I get why they did it, but, I don't know. Yeah. I give this a letter grade, an A, for what it is. It is definitely, I don't know what the exact order, this would probably be, I don't know. This might be the 4th best one. I don't know. But maybe not in directly that order, But still an A.
You want to hit this up, Ken, or you want me to go first on this one?
You can go for it. I got like 11.
This is like less Phantasm 4 and more Phantasm 1.5. Because the runtime is...
all the old footage?
Yeah, the runtime is what, like an hour and 30 minutes? An hour and 20-something minutes when you actually subtract the credits?
It's probably like hour 26.
And I would say at least 30 minutes of this movie is found footage that they recreated not recreated, but found and re-edited to be in this one from the original Phantasm. And I mean, like, I just I was trying to figure out, like, when would the scene with them hanging him and then Mike going back to cut him down, like, have actually taken place in the first movie.
Dude, trying to picture where some of those scenes would have fit in the original plot was kind of an interesting game for me.
Like, the scene with him stealing the ice cream from Reggie's truck, I think that would have actually, it would have given Reggie a little bit more time, showcased that he and Mike had a little bit of a relationship outside of just being, Mike being Jody's younger brother. I think that could have worked in there. But yeah, some of the other stuff, I mean, like Kevin said, I see why they cut it. Like Kevin also said, the scene with the cop is awesome. I really like the makeup that they did for him, on top of just the way the scene
the cop in the trunk, too. That was, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why Reggie just didn't close his mouth when, the shit was leaking out of him. But,
They shot that 5 times.
Oh, could you imagine having to swallow all that shit?
No. He had to have been disgusted after the first take. I can't imagine doing 5 takes.
Unless they made it taste really good. Yeah.
Yeah, but if I start spewing honey mustard down your throat, Kevin, after a couple takes, you might.
If at the end of the take, I'm putting a flare in a cop car and it's blowing up. I don't care.
But like we got into with part 3, I don't know why they couldn't bring. I mean, probably because showing a dead child is going to get you a harder rating than whatever they got. But bring Tim back at least to show his body at the beginning of this. I don't know. I was expecting more from the boobs. That kind of let me down a little bit. It's not a bad movie, but overall, I think it's just the weakest one that we've seen out of the series so far.
Agreed.
And again, we're heading southeast into Death Valley, which is southwest of where we've been the entire series so far. Although they did bring back the fortune teller lady for that one scene in the car, so there's that. And I guess my last question is, how come Reggie decides that when he's going to go save Mike and be a badass, he gets away from all the flannel that he's been wearing for the last 2 movies and decides to re-put on his ice cream man costume?
Flannels were dirty. Oh, I love
I don't know. That doesn't scream to me like I'm going to be a superhero now. That screams to me, I'm going to go, molest some kids down the road or something.
Maybe Clint Howard, gave him some tips,
Yes, I got you. Anyways, that's my thoughts on Phantasm Floor Oblivion. I liked, too, how each one moved where they had the numbers centered on the fonts in the background.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the weakest of all of them to me from a narrative perspective. 'Cause I know how a lot of people feel about the final one, but from a narrative perspective, I don't know. I got just as much out of the flashbacks as I did from the fucking quote-unquote new stuff that they offered. I want to know why the hell you're pulling over for a cop. At this point in the game, why the fuck are you pulling over for a cop? Reggie knows better. Like, he knows better. He has to know better. Like, if there are cops, are they really pulling people over for speeding on a deserted road? No. So, I don't know. Maybe you just don't pull over, but I guess you pull over to make one of the most badass scenes in Phantasm history. I guess that's the reason, maybe? I don't know. I enjoy seeing the different layers of Tall Man, Jebediah. I liked when we got to see, like, nice version of him. He's like, hey, you want some lemonade? Got to show off a little bit of Angus Scrimm's acting chops, which is always a treat. The tree that Mike was trying to hang himself from, I thought that looked really cool. The fact that Mike, I don't know if Mike had really exhibited much of his telekinesis powers until this one, but now he can do shit with boulders and squish poor Jawas. So that was fun. I was trying to figure out the whole. Yeah, I don't think we talked about this in specific, but the flashback where Jody sees the tall man in the mirror. And I was trying to figure out, do you guys think that was like an alternative ending to the original?
I don't know.
Because, I mean, they filmed it for some reason. It's so similar to the ending that we got. I guess that was kind of where I was like, maybe that was just an alternate ending that just didn't work well. I don't really know where else that fits into the story otherwise. So, I thought it was weird. I thought Jen was really attractive and a gigantic dick tease. And then by the time we had the moving boobs and everything, I was just like, and she's going to just remain a dick tease. And then we got this ball boob thing, and I was like, they kind of redeemed themselves there. I mean, if we're not going to get boobs, at least give us something that's, somewhat imaginative. I thought it was really a well done scene. I found it kind of weird how, much like in any other horror franchise, sometimes like something that was kind of, seen in the first one all of a sudden becomes super relevant by part 4. And in this case, we're talking about the tuning fork, which really wasn't all that relative in the previous 3 movies. It existed, but wasn't really prevalent until now. I was okay with it. It was a newish tool to really abuse. I like the fact that Reggie drove into the desert. He drove right past the sign that said danger, because as you're going to pull off the side of the road into the desert, there's naturally going to be a sign that just says danger. I think my favorite scene was when Reggie sees Jennifer driving. She swerves to miss the frickin' giant turtle, and he rescues her, and he's like, yo, we gotta get away before it explodes. And she's like, oh, that only happens in the movies. And then it explodes. I was like, I accept that cheesy factor. I quite enjoyed that on some level. That was silly, stupid, but fun for me. My question for both of you is, how the hell, who's determining where/when you go in the portal? Because in some ways it kind of made sense that the tall man could kind of control it, and I guess maybe it made some sense that Mike could control it since he has these powers. But Reggie also goes through the portal. So do we know what the determining factor is?
That they need an open-ended ending for the 5th one that they barely... Yeah.
I mean, I could go for an open-faced sandwich to go with it. I kind of wish they would have laid down a couple of throwaway lines, just kind of be like, this is how it's done. Or like when he was first inventing, the technology for it. Like, give us some kind of clue as to what the determining factor is, since the portal setup was used so much in this particular film. I mean, they had that huge grid of the cylinders at one point. It was cool looking, but at the end of the day, I was like, you're still not telling us like how they know where they're going, and it kind of just felt like Quantum Leap at times.
Yeah, so. I don't think that it's one of those things where it's supposed to work as it does when they need it to. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, at this point, I have to accept anything and everything. I can't be upset about it. I kind of think it would have been neat to actually understand the why. But, I don't know. For me, this actually was my least favorite of the franchise, and it's not bad. I still enjoyed it. I thought Mike actually stepped up really well as an actor here. I I think a lot of the performances actually stepped up. It was just the story there was kind of lacking. So that's all.
All right, guys. That concludes episode. This is 48, right?
Correct.
48, our part 2 of the Phantasm series, and we'll be back to finish it off with episode 49.